Okay, so what do we have today?
YouTubers, your mind Cruz here with a quick video titled Is Alchemy Real? And How to Become a Master Alchemist in 3 Easy Steps.
But doesn't that answer your question in the first place? If you're going to teach us how to alchemy in 3 easy steps, then surely alchemy being real is a prerequisite for that. Why even bother asking if you're going to answer the question in the title? I know attempting to reach YouTube's hallowed 10-minute mark is important, so you want to cram as much nonsense into a video as possible, but leave your big reveal for at least until I've clicked on the damned link.
A lot of talk about alchemy. When people think about alchemy, they think about turning copper into gold.
What? No, they don't. The absolute most famous alchemy example is lead into gold. It's absolutely everywhere when discussing the idea of alchemy, probably because, at least back in the day, lead was a low value material that was fairly easy to find. In fact, it was one of the earliest metals we humans even discovered, and it was used in all sorts of stuff. Gold, although we found that pretty early on too, that was far rarer, and it had that shiny that the Who-mans just go crazy for, and has been and still is used as a status symbol and a sign of wealth. In fact, a lot of times lead was used to bulk out objects that were supposedly solid gold in order to scam people or just make it look like you owned things of greater value than they were, because lead was so much cheaper. Although at one point lead was used to mint coins, it went out of fashion, aside from the aforementioned sneaky switcheroony, but copper still in many places is used for coinage. So I imagine since copper seems to have a higher intrinsic value, it would have been less worth the transmutation process. Although don't take my word for it, I'm not an expert in anything aside from how to look good in big flappy robes.
They think about charlatans back in the 16th and 17th century who were able to perform all these miracles.
I mean, I think about charlatans all the time. Kind of have made a job out of it. But charlatans who are able to perform miracles? Well, they wouldn't be charlatans, would they? They would be literal bloody miracle workers. Also, I don't know why, but I find that clairvoyantmagic.com website, I find that really, really funny. It's like nonsensicalnonsense.com. Love it.
And they would rip people off, and they would claim to be alchemists. And then they would leave the town with a whole bunch of gold that they stole from people.
And nothing has really changed. Woo peddlers have existed throughout history. It's just now you can do it from home and garner bafflingly large audiences. Seriously, why more than about 3 people buying into this kind of crap? It just confuses the hell out of me.
Or they think about things transforming from nothing. And so what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly what alchemy is and how you can use it to manifest and create magic. So stay tuned.
You know, explaining what something is doesn't actually mean that it exists, so it's kind of odd that you aren't answering the question, just presupposing it does, then telling people how to use it, even though it almost certainly does nothing beyond power of positive thinking type stuff. Imagine I'm a woman. I use X magical spell to find, say, a partner. I beat a goat to death with another, smaller goat and smear the delicious red juices into my eyes. After a quick wash, I head down the local boozery with my new, frankly unearned confidence. Some rando thinks, hey, they look really easy. Boom, magic works. And if it didn't, I didn't do it right or I didn't believe enough, which is kind of true, but not for the reasons that you think. Am I the only one who was slightly terrified by that intro? It seriously looked like some sort of ultra-authoritarian propaganda that you'd see in a futuristic, terrifying movie.
The curious thing about alchemy is that it's really about necromancy.
The curious thing about unicorns is they are really about dragons.
And a lot of the witches talk about necromancy, and people think that necromancy is when you're physically raising the dead.
Yeah, that would be completely and utterly ridiculous. No, It's a real thing about talking to the dead to predict the future and other completely rational, real things that happen in the real.
I think a good example of this is Game of Thrones.
That famous work of non-fiction.
When Melisandre was able to say a couple of words and use some healing energy, and she was able to resurrect Jon Snow and bring him back from the dead.
Spoilers? Sorry anyone who hasn't watched it yet. Well, at least you're not getting spoiled on the part where Eddard Stark comes back to life as an 80-foot mecha tank and eats the Iron Throne. Dodged a bullet there.
And it was miraculous because Jon Snow was just walking around and he was killed and he was stabbed and, he's back for another round of life.
Back for another round of life. That is kind of an understatement if I ever heard one. It's like, yeah, he's dead and now he's alive. No big deal. And to think that it's all based on a true story. Incredible, right? Well, not credible.
So what I want you guys to understand is that when you are looking at alchemy, you have to understand that from, I want to say, a mystic's perspective, there's no such thing as dualities.
Oh, well, that's a load off. I was just sitting here thinking, what about the dualities? Thankfully, they don't exist.
We're taught, or programmed rather, that things are black or they're white. There's no in between.
Who's taught that? I certainly wasn't. Most things are shades of grey. There are always outliers, but black and white thinking is simply the thinking of extremists and nutjobs. All these people are bad. All those things are exactly the same. Only crazies and stupid thinks like that. But not all crazies and stupid. Huh? See how I got around that one? Ha ha!
And so when you begin to work with magic, when you begin to see things from the perspective of the alchemist, you have to understand that there's no black and white. It's actually a circle.
That sounds like something an extremely, extremely stoned person would say. Dude, when you mix red and yellow, it makes a square, man.
It actually circulates around. What happens is that black and white, good and bad, circulates around, reshapes, and changes form every time it rotates.
I sense sophistry. I've not felt sophistry like this since...
So I'm going to explain this to you without the geek speak.
That's not geek speak. Geek speak would suggest something overly technical. That was sophistry. That was you stringing a bunch of words together that at least to some people sounds good, clever, or meaningful. But it's actually just total gibberish that when broken down means absolutely nothing.
The one thing you have to understand is the science behind this.
Oh, God, here we go. The person from clairvoyantmagic.com is going to tell us about science. I can't wait to hear what she's going to say. $10 says it's absolutely idiotic.
Scientists believe in the concept that's known as 0-point theory. Energy cannot be destroyed and energy cannot be created.
No. It sounds to me that you're talking about the first law of thermodynamics, that at least within a closed system, matter cannot be created or destroyed, etc. 0-point theory, well, I couldn't find anything with that specific name that wasn't woo. The closest thing I saw was 0-point energy, which isn't anything to do with what you're saying. But they do talk about quantum field theory, and I do know woo-tards love to pretend to understand that, so no wonder you're into it.
Alright, so again, energy is recycled throughout the cosmos. Rotates and recycles throughout the cosmos.
That's almost certainly not happening in the long term. In fact, eventually we will hit something akin to perfect entropy when all of the universe's thermal and mechanical functions fail. Without new energy being introduced into a system, it eventually runs out. And as far as we can tell, the universe is closed, making every single human action ultimately meaningless.
Oh, I made myself sad.
So what happens when someone passes away?
They are probably dead for good, and you need to get over it. Because if there is no afterlife, spending all your limited actual life worrying about it means you are wasting what precious little time you do have. If everything is ultimately pointless, then you better make damn sure you give your life some meaning that matters to you beyond worrying about what happens when it's finished.
Your physical body.
Is she clapping Or is something else going on here? I can't see her hands, and that's quite the cum face.
Disseminates. The physical body evaporates, is probably a better word to explain it. It evaporates and is no longer seen here in the physical world.
It doesn't evaporate, it rots. You might want to look up decomposition. It is very, very different from evaporation and infinitely smellier.
But the memory of who they were, and our body is basically made of photons, which is really just memory. It's just energy.
No, it isn't, you goddamn clown. Photons are not memory. It's electromagnetic radiation. It's light or other similar particles. Now, you can transmit information using light, which is where I think this confusion comes in, but the light itself is just a medium for communication. You wouldn't say that pipes are water. They simply move it from one place to another, and you need apparatus at either end to make the water useful within that system. Same with fiber optics we use. Ultimately, no, the human memory is not stored in photons. It's stored in neurons. And as far as we can tell, as soon as they fail, those memories are gone. Like, say, when a person dies. Or at least shortly after. They certainly don't shoot out of us in a big ball of flames, at least not in any way that anyone has ever detected.
But the memory of who they were is still here. It's actually buried in a huge database.
What? Where? Who's maintaining it? How do you know this? What proof do you have? There are so many questions I have. And what in the name of flip has this got to do with alchemy? I'm so confused.
And so when we see this database, we can call it the Akashic Records, or we know it as dark energy.
Is it just me, or do woo peddlers simply play follow the wiki links all day, starting off by typing quantum or energy or some other vaguely scientific term, reading the first line up until they find a cool new sounding term, instead of reading the full article or doing any further research, like reading the citations or anything? That is not how you learn things. That is how you can know a lot of terms and literally nothing else.
It gets absorbed back into the darkness. So basically what happens is that we're constantly living and dying and living and dying and living and dying. And so we reincarnate into the physical world.
Oh, are we back to that geek speak again? Mother of God, woman. Do you even hear yourself? Everything you've said has either been objectively wrong or just absolute gibberish. And the saddest part is, you probably think you're saying some great truths about reality and meaningful statements about the world, but it's more like farting into a balloon and spraying it back into your own face. You may have made it, you might even like the way it sounds, but ultimately, now you're just a fart face.